Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Orange Bloods Texas Football YouTube channel. I'm Geoff Ketchum, joined today by Anwar Richardson, looking snazzy today in a little light blue and gray. I like it. Those are good colors on you.
Summertime, baby. Hey, the thing about doing these videos every day is that you realize you got to now pay attention to your wardrobe, because when you work from home, you can wear the same stuff over and over. And now I realize
wear stuff, walk around half naked. There's all kinds of stuff that you can normally do. But yes, the YouTube videos do require, at the very least, a shirt, if nothing else. Hey, do us a solid. Click on the like button if this video entertains you even remotely. If you find the information useful, the like button's cool, as is hitting subscribe button. We won't belabor the point too much, but we would like a like and a subscribe if it can happen. Today, we're talking about commitment number 12 for the Texas Longhorns as they pick up Tyler legacy running back Jamarion Miller on Monday, just less than 24 hours, I guess about 24 hours after returning home from his official visit. He's the second running back in this class. It is, just to go over, I think the data on him, Anwar. Number 32 prospect on my current Lone Star Recruiting Top 100 list. I have him rated as a mid 4-star guy, kind of right where the line meets for a low 4-star. So kind of a national top 250 guy for me. Rivals currently has him as a high 3-star prospect. I do believe that will change. They have him as the number 57 overall prospect in the state of Texas. I believe that will change. Meanwhile, 24/7 has him as a low 4-star prospect and the number 23 player in the state. And ESPN also has Miller as a low 4-star player and the number 27 player in the state. So if we look at the rankings, 24/7's got him at 23. ESPN's got him at 27. I've got him at 32. I think Rivals is the outlier right now, and they'll come to the rest of the pack. But we're talking, Anwar, about a really solid 4-star prospects and one of the best offensive players in the state of Texas.
Yeah, and it's a good get when you consider that Texas was really pursuing DeAnthony Gatson at running back, and he ends up going to USC, which at some point we're probably gonna have to do a video on USC and kind of what they're doing here in the state of Texas. And there's no coincidence that Brian Carrington goes out there and all of a sudden there becomes this little pipeline that's going on. But that being said, Texas was really high on Gatson, and then all of a sudden that doesn't happen. He goes to USC, and then they go to, which often happens in recruiting, they go to the next guy on their list, the guy that they were interested in, but maybe just kind of keeping tabs on and say, all right, what about you? Hey, the path is clear. And like in recruiting, everyone forgets about it at some point, and they just think about where they want to be. And you look at the guys' huddle highlights, and you see some speed. Like you don't see like 10-4 kind of speed at this point, but you do see some speed. You see some elusiveness. You see the breakaway that you want to see. Like I want to see, when I watch stuff like this, I want to see a guy get through the holes and then just go. Like I don't want to see a guy getting caught from behind. Of course, no one puts that on the highlight. But overall, I think he ends up being a good, solid addition to that running back room, where you start to say it's interesting. And I'll throw it back to you in a second. It's interesting. I was thinking about a few years ago when Stan Drayton was the guy that we were talking about from a recruiting perspective, that hey, he needs to do a little bit more, right? They lost, what was it, Noah Kane, if I'm correct, on that signing day. There's like 2 running backs, I think, from IMG that they had lost. And you start saying, hey, you got to see a little bit more. It's Stan Drayton, just from a recruiting perspective, from Keontae Ingram, but to now, I think he's been doing a really good job.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to view what Texas has been able to acquire here in Miller's commitment. I think he's one of the 5 highest rated in-state prospects on the commitment list for the Longhorns right now. So it's no small thing. I think, we may view this differently in a few months if Texas has a couple of 5-star offensive line commitments and Denver Harris and Bryce Anderson pull the string, and suddenly Miller won't be at the top of the food chain for what this class might eventually look like. But as it currently stands, the Longhorns are sitting at 12 commitments. For me, he's in the top half, talent-wise, of what they've been able to acquire so far. I mentioned this in the Orange Bloods modcast, which we recorded earlier today in the podcast form of our Orange Bloods content, that the thing I really like about him is that he's got really good speed. I don't know that he's got great speed, and I think that probably is the type of thing that kept him from being the guy in the totem pole in running back recruiting, right? Why did Texas pick Jalen Blue first and then DeAnthony Gatson second in their choices of running back recruitment? But he's got really good speed. And I think that the thing that really stands out to me the most is that he does a lot of work between the tackles. I get worried about high school running backs who bounce everything to the outside because they're faster than everybody else is on the field that they're playing against, right? There aren't a lot of guys that are seeing speed versus speed at the Texas high school level. There are some guys that do, right? I mean, if you're on North Shore and you're playing in that district and going through the playoff route that they have, you'll play like versus like, but that doesn't always happen. And what you see from Miller that's really interesting, and he's completely comfortable in traffic. He's completely comfortable making all of his hay between the hash marks. And when you see his speed really start to take off, it's in the middle of the field. And it's so interesting because I guarantee you could take Jalen Blue's highlight film. You could take Reuben Owens's highlight film. Fast guys bounce to the outside instinctively and naturally. Whereas Miller's got some explosiveness, but I feel like he's a north-south, if we were going to pull a pro comparison, he's a high school version of Terrell Davis. Not a lot of wasted motion, doesn't mess around and juke, and there's not always a lot of spectacular, but if you get in his way, buckle up. He'll put his shoulder pads down and try to get through you. He runs through arm tackles. He runs through leg tackles. He can run over guys. He's got burst. I don't know that there's anything about him that I look at and go, that's special. But I think I look at almost everything that he does and I say, it's really good.
Yeah, and he's the second running back in this class, right? So you pointed out, you still got Jaden Blue as a running back, and you bring in Miller. And to your point, like you don't look at it, you don't go 5-star, like you're screaming like that. But to be fair, and we could say like Alabama was interested in him, and apparently he had a committable offer from Alabama. When we say the word committable offer, a lot of guys get offered, like schools offer 400 scholarships to guys, but there's actually what they call a committable offer, which is that you can actually commit because you can get an offer, you'd be like, I committed, like hold on, you're on the radar at that point. But he had a committable offer, which if he told Alabama to Nick Saban, hey, I want to go to your school, he could have gone to their school and go to their program. So it does say something that, look, if I just say it's probably a fail-proof method. If Alabama wants you, you're probably good, right? Come from a recruiting perspective, we can just clearly just say, if Nick Saban and his staff have identified you as a player, you're probably really, really good in high school. So, you like that. You from a Texas perspective, they recruited against other programs out of state, and they were able to win. So that's a good win for Sarkisian, good win for Stan Drayton as far as being able to keep a guy like that in there. And then, other catches, you need a multitude of running backs, man. They take so many hits, they take abuse. And, how many times do you really see a running back go from start to finish? I mean, they do get banged up. They do get bruised. So the more guys that you have in that room, the better. And when you start thinking about what the future looks like, Ketch, I mean, just from a depth perspective in that room, of course, you got Bijan, but Roshan is starting to get a little old. What is Roshan going to go into? Is this year 3 for Roshan? Is it? So. Yeah. So that's a junior. You got Gabriel Watson, who I'm assuming will graduate at some point at Texas. Daniel Young will graduate at some point here at Texas. So at some point you're going to start needing to get some room and depth. And the last thing I'll say on the catch is, I think with the transfer portal, the way that it is, you've got to have bodies. because guys will come in and they'll say, oh, I'm not getting any run. I'm not getting any burn. Let me just go ahead and get out of here. So, having a guy like Miller in there as insurance, but a guy that maybe can potentially play if someone gets banged up. I mean, Ketch, to be honest with you, Bijan could be gone, not after this upcoming season, but we may only have this year and one more year of Bijan. So you start to know that you're going to need bodies in that room.
I think one of the more underrated components of his commitment that hasn't been mentioned enough is this is a head-to-head win over Texas A&M. I mean, A&M brought in Jamarion Miller on June 4th, that first weekend of visits in June, on an official. He also took an official visit to Florida. But, I think when Nick Saban offers, and look, Sam Spiegelman of Rivals.com had put in a future cast for Miller to Alabama just days before Texas got back involved. So there's a very good chance that Miller was going to either end up at Alabama based on what Spiegelman was getting, or he was going to go to A&M. So from a head-to-head standpoint, Texas is in a lot of these battles right now. Kelvin Banks and Denver Harris and Bryce Anderson and Cam Dewberry, and the list goes on of the very elite of the elite guys that Texas is recruiting. Those are the schools that they're recruiting against to get those players. Well, they were recruiting against the same schools to get Jamarion Miller, and they got him. And so it's a win. It's a big win and a who did you beat to get him. This isn't shooting from the layup line. They had to be on the ball. They had to beat out other schools. So it definitely counts. The other thing is, and I don't know, I'm piggybacking off of you. You made a great point in bringing up Blue. This is now a Blue and Miller combo backfield in this class. It's arguably the number 1 and number 2 running backs in the state. If not, we're probably talking about number 1 and number 3. So, or at worst, number 1 and number 4. If you thought Tavoris Jones was a guy that was ahead of, most of these guys. But they complement each other, and it is a combo of talents that I think makes the running back class, I think, more complete. It's funny, we were talking about Keontae Ingram on the podcast that we did earlier today. But if we go back to that Keontae Ingram recruitment with Stan Drayton, he was Drayton's top guy. And one of the things, Drayton didn't get a lot of credit for Ingram in that class, even though Ingram was the top back in the state, because Ingram wasn't regarded as a nationally elite of the elite guy. But I think if you go back to that class and you were to get Ingram with another guy, at the time we would have looked at that and been like, that's a damn good running back class. And I think the fact that they've got 2 of these guys committed gives them insurance against each other. It gives them twice the talent, if you will. And I think it's a big win. I think that there are questions that you can have right now about what Texas is doing in recruiting and how they're allocating their numbers. And I think you could even do it with the running back position, given that they took Keelan Robinson from Alabama a couple of weeks ago, which from a numbers standpoint, I mean, it's like having 3 backs in this class to a certain extent.
Good point.
But this guy's talent justifies him being in this commitment list, no matter who else they add. And I think it's a good day for Texas football. They needed to kickstart a little momentum that didn't involve kickers or deep snappers. And I think getting a kid out of Tyler, Texas, East Texas, from Texas A&M, Alabama, Florida, it can't be said enough. That's a good W.
Yeah, it's definitely, if you're in that staff, meeting, I guess it was yesterday, and you get the announcement, that's one of those you get to high five each other and feel really good about, where you're going. And now you just got to keep that, last thing I'll say on the catch, you just got to keep that momentum going. There's still a lot of big fish that are out there. There'll be a lot more guys that we talk about, but, they still got to keep that momentum going. They've got to get some offensive linemen, in the fold. I think that is, we know they're after the big fish in the state, and they've got to be able to pull in, some of those guys. Probably some defensive linemen would help because they need some big bodies. So the skill position guys are great. These are the talented guys. But the next step for this whole staff is you've got to get some hogs, man. You got to get the big boys, and you got to get the guys that are interested in you. The guys who've been here in the month of June that are saying like we're thinking about Texas, we're feeling Texas with the Cam Williams, the Dewberrys. Those are the guys that Texas has to obtain. That's the next phase of recruiting for them.
Yeah, and you can guess that between now and when those recruits start announcing their commitments, that we'll have plenty of podcasts talking about the need for the big boys to join the party, if you will. For now, congratulations to Jamarion Miller. We don't say it enough. It's a monumental decision to make your college decision. And I still remember getting my letter of acceptance in the mail and being like, cool, but like I still remember it. So we always break down the talent of these guys and what it means for football. But for him, it's probably the biggest moment of his young life. We probably just don't say congratulations to these young men enough. Just it's a big deal to have your education paid for and to be able to go to a program like Texas. And that's it. So look, for myself and Anwar Richardson, just wanted to say congrats to Jamarion Miller. We'll do it again tomorrow on the Orange Bloods YouTube football channel. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Eventually we won't have to. Yeah, we'll always ask you, but do it right now if you haven't already. We'll talk to you later. Goodbye.